I'm Kushal, and this video is about disability language. If you've read any of the literature that's out there on disability, you'll find that the disability community places a lot of importance on using the correct language to further their cause of disability rights. I think in the right context, language can be a very useful and powerful tool to promote change, but it can also create problems when it's presented as a unquestionable set of rules that must be followed. To fix some of these problems, I'm going to provide you with a brief overview of commonly discussed words and provide you with a moderate approach. First off, I'm not about to tell you what you can and cannot say, and I'm not about to point any fingers or call anyone out on being ignorant or offensive or anything like that, because that's just not what I'm about. I believe that it's hard to determine a person's attitude or intentions based on the words that they do or do not use. More importantly, I believe that shaming people about any ignorance that they may have is counterproductive. All it really does is make the able-bodied community fearful of starting an honest dialogue with the disability community. My hope is that my laid-back attitude about this stuff creates a more comfortable space for you to share your thoughts in the form of comments. Anyway, for those of you that aren't familiar with the disability lingo, I decided to break down the words into my own distinct categories. When I say historical language, I'm talking about old, outdated terms for disability. The words lame and handicapped are probably the oldest terms that exist to describe disability. The word lame is so old that its meaning has changed a lot over time. And that's why I don't really consider it an offensive term, because you'll rarely see someone use lame in the context of disability. The word handicap is considered offensive by some in the disability community because it comes from the phrase hand in cap, which refers to people with disabilities begging for money. Even though I don't use this word, I've found that it's usually older people using this term. When they were growing up, it was the appropriate term. So I can't really blame them for using it because their intentions are not malice when they're using this term. Also, I can hardly keep up with the slang kids are using these days. So for me to expect them to see how language is changing and keep up with that is really unfair. Derogatory or offensive words like cripple, sometimes shortened to crip, and gimp have been reclaimed by the disability community as a source of solidarity and pride about disability, much like the word queer by the LGBT community and the N word by the African American community. I personally don't feel comfortable using words that I expect other people not to use, so I'm kind of against using the terms, but I completely get how it's an empowering thing, and I don't have a problem with other people with disabilities using the term. I broke down the patronizing words category into three subcategories. The first one was euphemistic language. Euphemistic language is like cutesy language when it comes to disability, like differently abled, special, or handicapable. Words like that are viewed as condescending by some in the disability community. I personally am neutral to the words. I do find them a little bit ridiculous, but if someone uses them, I'm not going to get offended. Victimizing language includes phrases like suffering from a condition. The disability community dislikes this kind of language because the last thing they want is to be pitied or viewed as helpless. Though I agree with the sentiment, I have to be honest, not being able to do things does suck at times. Um, but I don't spend all my time dwelling on things that I can't change. Much like you wouldn't spend all your time dwelling on the fact that you can't dunk like Michael Jordan or run like Usain Bolt. That would just be ridiculous. Inspirational language includes phrases like brave or courageous. The disability community has issue with this type of terminology because they don't feel as though just living their everyday lives is anything to be celebrated or anything that's special. But the fact is, everything is an uphill climb for people with disabilities. I think it's important for people to see stories of people with disabilities overcoming the odds because it increases the awareness of challenges that people with disabilities face. These stories also show people like me what is possible given the opportunity, and it provides valuable role models for people with disabilities. The last category is progressive language. This includes people first language. People first language is the preferred terminology by the disability community because it emphasizes the person before the condition. Even though I don't take offense to people using the wrong terminology, I personally prefer to use people first language because I know that there are a lot of people out there that are offended by other terminology, and why hurt people knowingly? You'll also hear the term wheelchair user, which is the preferred terminology over wheelchair bound because it emphasizes that the person is controlling the wheelchair. Also, the newest development in disability language is the preference for disabled person. I think we're in a society where people really value the identities that they have. So that's a way for people to really own that identity. Personally, I don't identify more with my disability identity than my other identities, so I don't use this, but that's where we're headed in our society. Again, I'm Kushal, and thank you for watching Ramp It Up on YouTube. To follow more of what we have to offer, please subscribe to our channel and like our video below.